Hello everyone, this is Red Dude. What are some harmless ways to fuck with people? My dad used to have this game with a friend. They embarrassed me endlessly when I was a teen, but that was a bonus. Basically, when they were walking in the street, whenever they were passing someone, they would say things like, "Remember when you pushed your mother-in-law down the stairs?" Or, "I mean, it wasn't that much drug, usually I carry way more than that." Or, "Where did you hide the knife after stabbing him?" You get the idea, anything absolutely awful, as if they were having an entire conversation about drugs, murder, whatever. My dad and his friend had the whole hippie look as well, so innocent passersby would quickly cross the street. I mispronounce famous people's names constantly, then say it correctly randomly, so they never know what to expect. Billie Eilish, John Legends, Jason Ackles. My friend was logged into his Twitter on my tablet, so I kept changing his profile picture to a banana. He thought someone hacked him and tweeted about it. I replied to the tweet using his profile. It got so bad he was arguing with himself on Twitter. If you ever have a moment with their computer or cell phone, use their search engine to look for a bunch of nonsense products and then erase the search history. The algorithm will think they have an interest in said products and put a bunch of ads recommending them for the next few days. When using the military phonetic alphabet, I'll use all the right ones except Q as in alpha, G as in golf, Q as in cucumber. Cucumber starts with C. Oh, that's a sea cucumber, I meant a regular one. When at work, tell someone, "I'm going to the bathroom, do you need anything?" When having a conversation during a meal, specifically only ask questions to people that are chewing. Beta. I was never a server, but had this taught to me by a dear friend of mine years ago when we used to eat in a public cafeteria and mess with people we just met. After giving a compliment, say no offense and watch them struggle to find the non-existent insult. 3 weeks ago. I noticed that her bottle is running pretty low and she has to actively shake the bottle to get the last remnants out. We are pretty earth conscious as well, so nothing goes to waste, use until the last drop. There is still just enough left in the bottle that I can tell she is thinking that she shouldn't recycle it just yet and puts it back into the fridge. I notice this thought process going on in her head and decide I should mess with her. I take one of the full bottles of ketchup and add just enough to the almost empty bottle so that she will have the amount needed for breakfast the next day. Breakfast the next day rolls around and she does the same thing, adds ketchup to her breakfast and decides there is just enough to save and puts it back in the fridge. I should also mention that she is short. I hid the refill bottle at the top of the pantry so she could not see that it had been opened and used. 2 weeks ago. After 7 days of watching her add ketchup to her breakfast, I can begin to see an intrigued look on her face. When she is prepping her breakfast, she doesn't say anything, but you can tell she has taken notice of the bottle. This goes on for another 7 days. 1 week ago. Breakfast continues to go off without a hitch, and every time she adds the ketchup to her breakfast, she gets a little twinkle in her eye, like she really wants to say something about it. But doesn't want me to make fun of her being crazy and thinking the ketchup bottle is never ending, to the point that she will look at me, start to say something, and then stop herself, change the subject, and put the bottle away. I have never looked forward to breakfast so much in my entire life. All this week. She is on the verge of saying something every day. It's becoming hard to not laugh while watching her add the ketchup to her eggs, but I am laughing hysterically on the inside at this point. I have used roughly a half bottle of ketchup, refilling the other one. Yesterday. She adds ketchup to her breakfast and looks me directly in the eye and dead serious says, "OP, we have a fucking magical ketchup bottle." I could not control my laughter and proceed to lose my shit while she tries to explain to me how she has used the exact same bottle of ketchup for 3 weeks and it has been almost empty the entire time. She now thinks I am laughing because of her belief in magic and she is trying as hard as possible to convince me that she is serious and it is magic. I proceed to go into the pantry, take out the half-empty bottle of ketchup and place it on the counter. It all finally clicks in her head, and at that moment the empty ketchup bottle clicked into my head, but don't care because I made a magic ketchup bottle happen, so I am essentially Jesus. All in all, I made my wife believe we had a magic ketchup bottle, but it hurt just as much as normal bottle when flung at my face. I put a tiny piece of masking tape over my coworker's mouse laser on April Fool's Day 1 year, wrote April Fools on it. He troubleshot every single thing, except examining the mouse he eventually called it, who simply turned the mouse over and pointed it out to him. I plugged a wireless mouse onto one of my college professor's computers and moved the mouse around every time he wasn't looking at the screen, did this for a few days, and always took back the USP at the end of class without him noticing. Finally, when doing my final presentation, he realized what was happening when I took my own mouse up with me to click through the slides. My grandpa glued a quarter to his driveway near the sidewalk and sits in his living room and watches people try to pick it up. I didn't know this till I found a quarter in the driveway one time. Oh man, do I have a story. In my freshman year of college, my roommate was a very neat and orderly person. He had every pencil in place, every paper had a folder, and his things got neatly packed away. We were pretty amicable towards one another, even with my messy living. At first, when he would leave for classes, I would admire how tidy his desk was and thought to myself I should fuck with that. For the whole year we lived together I would sneak use staples everywhere on his stuff. Homework folder. Staple pencil case. Staple backpack. Staple shower caddy. You bet that pube-infested bar of soap got a staple on it, hell even the TV remote got a staple in it between the batteries, so when they died, he would eventually find another. I did it often but was careful to space the staple events far enough apart to not raise suspicion on myself. I further protected myself by making a huge deal of having to borrow the across-the-hall neighbor's stapler whenever I needed to bind papers together. About March of our second semester he had become insanely suspicious of anybody with a stapler and watched them like a hawk. The straw that broke the camel's back, I had asked him one night what his plans were under the guise of having a companion over for a visit. He said after dinner he had to go check out some obscure book at the library. When he left and headed to the dining hall, I snuck off to the library, found the obscure book he needed, and clicked a staple into it. He gets back to the dorm room and I'm doing homework in the same spot when he had left an hour earlier, claiming the meetup didn't end up happening. He sits down at his desk and opens up his newly rented book and tick, I hear that staple fall out onto his desk. All I hear after that is yo, where the fuck all these goddamn staples coming from? I revealed myself after graduation when I mailed him a birthday card with a used staple in it. Thankfully he got the biggest kick out of the card and we still talk daily. If someone asks for your name, saying something like Jack but with only one P. It's Dave but without the F. There's no F in Dave. I know, that's what I said. Say high five to someone but don't put your hand up. Now that's just evil. When you shake someone's hand, move yours left to right as they do the traditional up and down, a hilarious circle ensues. I do this every so often because it's kind of a game to me to see how long I can keep it up till the person catches on. I repeat the last word the person says in question form. Example. Hey, me and Jenny are headed to Jim's Pizza Hut. Jim's Pizza Hut. Yeah, you know the one on F Street. F Street. Over there near the harbor with the big carousel. Carousel. Yeah, you know the one you went with me and Jane. Jane? My girlfriend. Girlfriend. Okay, what the fuck is wrong with you? Once they call you out and have caught on the gay men's, I've carried on a conversation over an hour once doing this. It's really awesome when the person you are doing it to has gone through this a few times with you. My daughter has gotten me a few times herself and she'll laugh on and off for the day at my expense. Her husband has called me an ass for teaching this to her a few times too. I was talking with a supervisor and I happened to have like 4 hard-boiled eggs in my jacket pocket for lunch, so while talking with stuff, I took out an egg, cracked and shelled it and ate it. The conversation kept going so I did it again, but I could see he was growing quizzical. I waited a few more minutes, pulled out another and ate that too. By then I could tell he was like WTF. The conversation was wrapping up, so I pulled the last one out and he stopped mid-conversation and asked me, how many $King eggs do you have? I just shrugged, shelled, and then ate the last egg. When driving I like to wave at random people as if I knew them, hilarious to see instant confusion on their faces. I know someone who always takes an item to a party and leaves it somewhere in the house, a trinket. My aunt fills her medicine cabinet with ping pong balls whenever she has a party. The movie theater in my town is usually mostly empty. There's been a couple of times when I've come in to get seated and there's literally only one other person in my auditorium. There's an evil part of me that wants to just go sit right next to them. Not illegal, but it should be. Whenever I visit my extended family across the country, I bring a bag full of random remotes that I don't use anymore, just random remotes that go to old DVRs or anything, really just hide them around their house. They only recently caught on. Keep correcting them on the pronunciation of your name, even when they are saying it correctly every time. Say no pun intended after a sentence where there was clearly no pun. When I was a corrections officer we had a guy who worked with us who was kind of a dick to everyone and he was computer illiterate. We took a screenshot of his desktop and moved all of his icons off of it so it looked legit, but nothing worked. It took him an hour before he finally called it and they figured it out pretty quickly. He wouldn't talk to any of us for about a week. The guy I was driving behind in bad traffic was being a super calm traffic buddy, driving very relaxed, not tailgating, confident but not a pushover. I was behind him directly for a while, then we got separated, then I was behind him again and realized I liked following him because he was less herky-jerky to follow in the slow and go traffic. I was bored, so I called the number. They were very confused. I had to reiterate a bunch of times I was calling to report a good driver. He hadn't done anything amazing, but the company on the pickup seemed like a hard job for mediocre pay and I figured he could use a kindness. A half hour later we came upon the reason for the traffic: a really awful merge in a construction zone, had bad signage, and even worse coneage and street conditions. The lane ending sign referred to the wrong lane. So a lot of responsible early mergers were then stuck in a lane that ended abruptly at a cliff. I was one of them. The traffic in the through lane was too fast and flowing for us to get in. Any gaps were filled by folks behind us merging into it while they were still moving. It was too congested for any of us to safely get in, and a good 5 to 7 of us were stopped cold for minutes and stressed because we were constantly trying to time an entry. 1 or 2 in fast cars would risk it and cause dangerous braking, so that didn't seem wise. Then, from a ways back, who do we see slowly coming into focus from around a curve? Good driver guy. He was coasting steadily but was slowed way down versus those he was following, and he had left enough of a gap that we could slide in front of him. This space and speed buffer had single-handedly slowed the pack enough to make the zipper merge start to work behind him so that no one else would get stuck for a while. My wife and I started losing our shit. No fucking way. It's how's my driving guy. We had reported him as an excellent driver in a phone call that heavily exaggerated his heroism, and then he went on to actually save the day. Great moment. Thanks for watching. This was Red Dude. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to check out my other content.